Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from 3004S and says, "Am I the arsehole for being upset my wife will miss our first anniversary for a bachelorette party? The woman my wife is missing our anniversary for hates me because I drove a wedge in their friendship, since my wife obviously spends a large chunk of her time with me. I also see through her bullying bullshit and do not have patience for her. Anytime my wife tries to include this friend in our plans, the friend whines about nearly everything. Yesterday she was car sick when we had to drive an hour and a half to and from the place we went as she sat in the back. She tried to solve the problem by eating potato chips and 2 cans of soda, only to keep complaining she felt sick. She was clearly hinting I should have been the one sitting in the back, but I'm recovering from an injury and the extra room in the passenger seat is helpful. She made very obnoxious digs into my home country and background to the point where I almost took the train home, leaving my wife with her friends. Living in a new country has already been exhausting. Having to hear things like that from my wife's friend wasn't pleasant. My wife didn't stand up for me against the friend, which hurt my feelings. We spoke at length last night and today about it, agreeing I would never go out with this friend again. My wife also said it was only a matter of time before the friendship ended because she couldn't deal with the negativity and self-centered attitude anymore. On to the problem. April 17th is our first anniversary. My wife is the maid of honor at her wedding and got to choose when the bachelorette party is. She chose the week of our first anniversary, meaning we would be flying home from my home country to a very private getaway. I'd planned on our anniversary and my wife would leave me that night to go to this bachelorette weekend. I'm upset because my wife knew when our anniversary was. She knows this friend doesn't like me at all, and the friend has made digs and comments about my wife getting married before her. I understand my wife is between a rock and a hard place, but I'm tired of having to be understanding at the expense of my feelings over the friend. Edit. I don't know why everyone is dragging my wife. I've said several times this woman is a bully. Have you never had a friend who clearly is friends with a bully? It's a hard place to be in, especially when the bully has been their friend for nearly 20 years. I've seen my wife interact with this friend and be mentally drained continuously now. It's a toxic relationship and those aren't things that are easy to get out of. I've been in a fair few myself, so it's not as simple as she needs to block her. Edit 2. I just had a very long discussion with my wife and explained my feelings. She is ending the friendship with the woman after the woman in the car's birthday party in a week, so there isn't a fallout. She said her own anxiety about the situation was clouding her judgment, making me feel how I did isn't what she wants at all. I'm an action speaks louder than words sort of person, so we'll see what happens. But she was heartbroken and worried I was going to start the conversation with a divorce. Now OP, I can understand why the comments were sort of dragging the wife in this. My initial thoughts myself, rightly or wrongly, was more that you didn't have a friend problem here, you had a spouse problem. But I did find some things weird in this, in that your wife sort of chose the date and decided to do this on your anniversary. She made that choice. It was her decision, which I found really weird and just left me questioning why did she choose that particular day? But some people were asking for some additional information. Someone said, so why have they remained friends for this amount of time? Opie says, I don't either. The woman's other friend wised up and dropped her. My wife and this other woman, who I know, will drop as soon as my wife does. She got sucked in because she had a crappy home life. So did I. I'm not an asshole though, and adjusted just fine. I wouldn't jump the gun that the friend will destroy our marriage. My wife has already said it's me a million times over the friend. As I said, the friend is a bully. She has made my wife break down crying because I was too sick to have dinner with the friend when I first moved into the country. I went to the hospital and the woman was giving my wife shit because she didn't get a chance to see me before everyone else. Someone saying on what's more important, the wedding or the anniversary. OP says we spoke today that she prioritizes our relationship well over the one of her and her friend. She doesn't want to rock the boat though. She would 100% say our anniversary. I know this already, but as I said, the friend is a bully and steamrolls people and their feelings. The other people in the car tried to cut off that friend, and the soon-to-be bride refused to let her end the friendship. She essentially wore her down until the woman complied. As you'll see in the second edit, I spoke with my wife for nearly 2 hours. She is afraid of the fallout she received from the mutual friends. When I pointed out the mutual friends are likely friends with a person because of her, it was like a light bulb went off. She'd be ending their friendship as soon as this birthday party for that other woman in the original post is over. They were all best friends for the last 20 years, and my wife doesn't want to make things awkward for that friend. In some of the comments on this, Hi, I'm a Dadbot says, not the arsehole, you should be hurt and upset about this. This is at least a couple of times where she's chosen this friend over her husband, and that's not cool at all. Your first anniversary needs to be more important to her and given a higher priority than some lady's party. If it is not, you two are going to have a very limited number of anniversaries. TryXGI says, not the arsehole. Wait, your wife chose the date and decided on the week of her anniversary. How is this the fault of her obnoxious friend? No, your wife, for unknown reasons, did this all on her own. She is not between a rock and a hard place. She intentionally decided to mess up your anniversary plans. Why? Only she knows. Why are you still going on a private getaway when your wife is leaving you to go to a party with friends? Stop being tired of your wife prioritizing her friend and stand up for yourself. Your wife is just placating you with the whole ending the friendship BS. Not only are you not as important as the friend, but your first anniversary isn't either. Can you cancel and get your money back? What's the point of going if you won't be together the entire time? You can stay home and be alone. Happy anniversary. Hoshi Jones says, I don't understand. You said in the comments that your wife is going to end the friendship after the wedding. What the fuck? Who accepts a maid of honor position while planning to ditch her friendship with the bride right afterwards? Your wife is playing games and I don't blame you for being upset. Not the arsehole, but you need to have this out with your wife. She's not being a good partner to you. And one final comment which says, do you have a backbone? Or do you just like letting your wife walk all over you? Her actions are speaking louder than her words. Tell her if she, who planned this, won't change the date, she's told you her priorities. You need to decide where yours is. If it's to always let her have her way without consideration to you, then suck it up. You always have a choice. So OP does update the post and says, there were many discussions and disagreements leading up to her ending the friendship. Things would grate at me that the wife was still going along with the friendship for the sake of her other friend in their friendship triangle's birthday party. Every day it was like I was more annoyed because she still hadn't even defended me to the friend, and it was showing she cared less about me and how I felt in her country when she knows how much I miss mine. She knew she needed to end it anyway and said losing our relationship wasn't an option. After a bit of prying, it was clear how psychotic she thinks her friend is. My wife believes her friend will key her car, show up to the house and cause problems, drag all the other friends involved into it. It all came to a head when I told her I was not returning to her country from mine. We're back in mine for a Christmas thing with my family, if the friendship was still intact. She ended the friendship 2 days later, and the friend called me racist towards the very large white, 85% plus, majority of her country. I am white. As expected, the friend has started to go off the rails. So far, it's been excessive phone calls, texts. The friend tried to text me and apologize for her comments to salvage anything with my wife, but I had changed my number a week prior. The apology was something along the lines of, sorry if what I said hurt your feelings, but your words hurt mine. What I said had just pointed out my frustration with lived experiences from the new country every day. Friendship is over, wife is worried ex-friend will key her car. She's genuinely fearful of this ex-friend. We'll be installing another camera as soon as we get home. That only points to her car. I doubt this is the last update. And we actually booked a vacation for our first year anniversary. Now, totally off topic here, and it's probably going to show the child in me. But whenever I hear anniversary now, all I can think of is Cuphead, the show. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like a cartoon made from the game. One of the characters in it says, anniversary. And the guy goes, it's anniversary. Anniversary. But anyway, as I said, went off topic there. But a lot of the comments on this one were saying, you know, OP is probably right. This isn't going to be the end of this situation. And they're still calling the wife a bit spineless in this. But what is your thoughts on this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Turbo Max Shooting, who says, "My 34 male, wife 28 female, wants to name our baby after a dead ex-boyfriend." And before we do get into the story, a couple of warnings here that there is talk of survivor's guilt and death by an accident within the story. So as always, if you do want to skip the story, feel free to do so. Timestamps are down in the description and along the timeline below, but it may be the last story, so don't forget to check those timestamps. And it starts off, "When my wife and I met, she had broken up with her boyfriend almost a year prior. We went on a couple of dates until I noticed she slowly stopped talking to me. I found out she had gotten back with her boyfriend. We remained friendly since we'd run into each other at the gym. That's how we met. A year later, they break up. I decided to go for it again and asked her out. She was pretty upfront about him, and I learned that they had been off and on for almost 4 years. She left him because he started to get abusive. We get married a little over a year later. A few months later, she gets pregnant. Last week, I was sitting in the kitchen studying until I heard my wife yell out, crying. I ran over to her asking her what was wrong. She had difficulty speaking, but she eventually showed me a post on Facebook that a mutual friend between her and her ex had posted. Her ex had gotten into a motorcycle accident and had died. My wife was and is an avid motorcyclist who stopped riding once she got pregnant. She knew how passionate he was about motorcycle riding just as much as her and how tragic it is. I console my wife and help her get to bed, letting her know that I'm here for her. I didn't think much about the whole thing until my wife told me last night that she wants to name our baby after him. I hesitated for a bit and told her that I feel uncomfortable with it. For one, it's her ex. Second, he was abusive. Why would she want to honor someone like that? My wife got pretty upset and just wouldn't hear me out on my reasons. She won't talk to me at all. Am I really in the wrong here? I'm just thinking that my wife is extremely emotional at the moment since she's pregnant and trying to process the ex's death. Any advice?" And someone asks a question straight away. They say, "Okay, I'll be the arsehole here. Is the kid yours? She left you for him before. You got married really quickly and she got pregnant shortly after. It doesn't exactly sound like she was over him given her response and wanting to name the kid after him. On the not arsehole side, you are absolutely correct in not wanting to have your child named after her ex. That's an incredibly disturbing thing to have to explain, which shouldn't even be an issue in the first place. I really hope she's just being in a heightened emotional state because that is very disrespectful to you and the marriage." Opie says, "Yes, the kid is mine. When we started dating again, her ex moved back home to another state. We moved closer to our families too, right before we got married." And I know grief does crazy things to us, but to hear that this person would want to name our child after her ex, yeah, I wouldn't be having that at all. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. It'd be an absolute no. And for them to even ask that, like that last comment said, I find it disrespectful in itself. But 34 Maple Leaf says, "Just think about how every time you said your kid's name, you'd think about how the ex and how your kid would feel knowing he was named after his mum's ex-boyfriend." Snail Crossing says, "She's pregnant and grieving. She's not going to be the most rational right now. Say no, be compassionate, but stand your ground on this one. You don't want your kid to have a name you'll resent. Chances are she won't either, years down the line. All the best." Here I Am to Save the Day says, "She's mourning someone she once loved and she got pregnancy hormones intensifying the experience. She's going to have a lot of thoughts and you're going to hear some of them. Let her process out loud, and yes, sometimes she'll say something inappropriate. Drop all discussions of naming the kid until she's made it through the first shock of his sudden death. Just offer her support and don't hold her grief against her." And one more comment which says, "You are not in the wrong about the kid being named after the ex. Absolutely not. That said, you don't go back and forth for years with someone the way they did unless there was real emotional dependency. His death has compromised her mental health, and so if your expectation is that she be rational, you're probably going to end up being disappointed. I think you gently suggest that you want to make sure she's got the support to deal with the emotional impact of his death, and the name issue be set aside while you work together to deal with her grief." So OP did come back in to update the post and said, "Hi all, wow, so this post got a lot more traction than I expected. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your advices and showing your concerns, not just for myself, but for my wife. It means a lot. Now on to the update. For Easter, we already had plans with her family to go to church and then have a barbecue at her sister's. Not wanting her family to see any tension, I saw this as a chance for her to have to speak to me. As we're getting ready for church, I tell her that we need to talk about everything now. She agreed and sat down with me. I did tell her there is absolutely no way we're naming our baby after her ex or any of our kids if we have even more. She agreed and apologized for acting irrational. Also, I know a lot of you suggested that I get a paternity test. I know that I'm 100% the father. I didn't want anyone to get my anxiety up since, while it may seem rational, jumping into an extreme conclusion and making things worse. I thought it out, but I still did ask if she was in love with her ex and if she did cheat. She adamantly said no. She'd already stopped loving him even before they broke up. She tried to make the relationship work, but she just wasn't in love with him anymore. She described him as not being a good person at all. She apologized for making me feel that way. I told her that I understand she's going through a lot of emotions right now and being pregnant doesn't help at all. But I had to ask why she would want to name our baby after him, even after all she has told me. She started to get choked up and was shaking. I told her she could tell me. She confessed that when her and her ex broke up, the last thing she told him was that she wished he would fall off his bike and die. Also, the bike that he had died riding on was a bike that she strongly suggested that he buy, even though it wasn't his first choice. She also talked about how accidentally getting pregnant and her ex suddenly dying is a lot for her to handle. She wasn't expecting to be a mum so soon, and her life is about to change when she really didn't want it to. She talked about how she thought we'd travel and that she'd continue racing her motorcycle. Now she's not even sure she'd be able to ride again. She actually thought she might be able to ride again once she had the baby, but her ex's death reminded her of how much of a risk it is. She doesn't want to risk her life when she has a family. She feels gutted. Regardless, she kept stressing out to me how she wouldn't change a thing about her life now, that she's happy to be married to me and is going to be a mum. We're the best thing that has ever happened to her. Anxiety also runs in my wife's family. My wife gets intrusive thoughts about how her ex died too. It's so bad that she's had a hard time sleeping sometimes. After discussing things, she decided that she'd be going into therapy. She has her first appointment this week. And in the comments on this one, a lot of people saying to OP that glad that she's getting therapy to help her get through it and glad that they're moving through it at the same time. Other people concerned about the relationship itself and how rushed it was and that he saw her out in the beginning after she originally got back with her ex and then split up again and they got married a year after and you know, pregnancy and all this sort of stuff, and that it all seems very, very fast, and they say that they're getting bad vibes from that relationship. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. And you know, if you have got a bit of extra time on your hands and you do want to share with the community, me over at Mark Narrations, don't forget to share what you're up to whilst you're listening. I love to see those pics of your crafts and your artwork and your Christmas trees, and everything that you share is absolutely amazing. Obviously, don't be doxing yourself, of course, but it's always absolutely lovely to hear what you're up to whilst you're listening. So thank you so much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love to you.